Hey, peace, man. Welcome back to MMB's Barbers page. All right. First thing first, just like to appreciate you guys for coming back. You know what I'm saying? Always tuning in and, watching the progress of, another form of art that a lot of people don't realize that they see every day. All right. So, first things first, we always going to comb out the client's hair. All right. My co star in the video is my man Coca. Known this guy for some years. He's a great guy, man. All right. So first things first, like I said, you always want to make sure you comb out the client's hair. After you comb out your client's hair, what I like to do whenever I have a client who's, I'm going with the grain, I always like to set in that taper line. Now, depending on the client's preference, that would be either skin or light. All right. For this particular one, you know what I'm saying, we're going to go ahead and take that skin. So we're going to start with that closed clipper at the back of the nape. After that, we're going to go with the grain with a one guard close for the majority of part, but in certain pockets, you want to make sure, even dealing with the crown, that sometimes you open that guard up as well. All right. So you always want to start right from the crown, and bear in mind and always pay attention to which way that actual client's natural hair pattern is going. I'm not sure if you guys can kind of pay attention to how my hand is actually going, and it's not completely straight going with the grain. Pause. I'm actually turning more to my left because his hair actually falls in that pattern. So just always want to pay attention to small things like that. That's going to help you when you go with the grain, not to create those pockets where it's a lot lighter in certain pockets and make the haircut a lot harder for yourself. All right. Like always, I'm going to chime back in and, walk you through the haircut, man, of creating your artwork that that your clients are walking around with, like they're a walking billboard, a testimony to how much you care about this craft. You know what I'm saying? So take this craft seriously. Always paying attention to the way that your client's hair actually falls, man. Taking your time and understanding the pattern, all right? Certain pockets, you know what I'm saying? It's okay for you to open up your clipper and go with the grain so you can kind of identify which way the hair is truly falling before you actually lock in to that actual designated height or the length that you want the hair to be. Like I tell most of my students as well, you have to learn how to use both hands, man. It's ergonomically sound, you know what I'm saying? And it just helps you in your performance for your haircut and, the longevity of you cutting too, you know what I'm saying? You don't want to put your body in no awkward positions, pause. You know what I'm saying? You want to be able to do this craft, creating this art, for as long as you can or as long as you want to until you elevate to a different part of it. All right, going with the grain, paying attention to the way the actual client hair actually falls. Those little bit of movements that you make in your wrist, you know what I'm saying? Those movements are going to help you when you're actually going with the grain to make sure you're following that hair pattern. Always combing the client's hair. You see me trying to identify where that actual pattern of his hair so I don't mess up that crown. All right, boom. Brush it down. Go through it the first time and the second time. Remember, man, it doesn't take you an hour and a half to cut a client's hair. if you have a system. You always got to have a system. See how my hand's turning? You're starting to see those waves. Like, if your client has some form of wave pattern in their hair, no matter how high or low you cut it down, you should be able to identify that wave pattern. And if y'all two work together, you could bring some waves to life, man. All right, so now, even though I went with the grain, I want to make sure that I go against the grain with a bigger guard in certain pockets, all right? Meaning, all right, you know how you go with the grain. I was always taught, and I know for a fact that when you go with the grain, the haircut isn't as even as it can be against the grain. That's just a fact. So when going with the grain, when you're dealing with wavers or you're just trying to, make those waves pop, there's going to be certain pockets you're going to go against the grain, which is predominantly going to be around the ear and the back of the nape. All right. Depending on how a client also front hairline grows, sometimes you might go against the grain there too. All right. So now what I'm doing here, after I knock off that weight with that 1 1/2 guard, I'm gonna go down to that 1 guard, all right? And I'm just trying to blend into those certain pockets so that I can create a good transition from where I'm dealing with the blondness of his hair and then the darkness of his hair, all right? So now here's just a simple taper, all right? I'm gonna take that 1 1/2 guard, open, mid, close, all right? I'm just gonna work my guard system. Just remember, take your time. Always combing, making sure you're placing the hair into those certain positions that the hair actually grows. All right, making sure that you're also cutting against in those pockets. It's not a race, man. You wanna make sure when your client leave, you feel like, take over the world after this haircut. You know what I'm saying? After that 1 1/2, I'm gonna do the same thing with that 1. All right, always remembering when I leave off with that 1 1/2 guard closed, right? I want to understand that my next guard open can go into that same transition pocket. For example, simple. If I start with a 2 guard against the grain and I break the 2 guard into a certain pocket, right? My next guard, which would be a 1 1/2, when I use that guard open and that transition from open mid to close, when I get ready to go open with that new guard, I should be able to pass that into that same pocket. All right. So same thing with that 1/16. All right, more to the bottom. Just, understanding that guard placement. So now if you notice on his left side, right, it looks like it's a pocket where he doesn't have hair, right? Or like I'm not blending where it's supposed to blend. All right, that's that pocket that I was talking about where certain parts of his hair is actually blonde. All right, so when I put the line on his hair, you're really going to be able to see what hair he actually has. You know what I'm saying? And identifying where your line is supposed to be placed. All right, sometimes unfortunately, some clients, they have this hair color and people cut where it's most dark at. And that's just not what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to place the line where it's supposed to go, according to, your reference points in barbering. All right. So what you do on one side, you want to make sure you do on the opposite side. And, using those corners. You see how I'm just breaking down that weight, because certain pockets, when you go with the grain, you have to go against the grain in those pockets to make sure everything is smooth and, you know, a good transition, because you don't want your client to have a fro behind his ears or in certain pockets, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, you want your whole haircut to kind of flow. Remember, every part of a haircut brings together the haircut, all right? So your details matter. It's not a race. All right, so right there, I probably seen like a little area where I was like, you know what? Let me just go with it a little bit, make sure I got everything smooth. All right, so now you see how like those little small details that I did around the ear and right where, you know, at the bottom where that the A point is at, you know what I'm saying? It just made everything come together. Look at that, identifying the crown, knocking off any extra weight. All right, so now you can see like that really blondness of his actual hair, all right? All right, dust your client off. And the barber gang, they say these dust is illegal. But I ain't going front. Everybody in the barbershop still use them. I don't care what you say. All right, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to apply some holding spray. All right, so I don't use holding spray on the hairline. I use liquid razor. That's one of the best products I find for the actual client's hairline. What I do is I spray a little bit on a paper towel, and then I wipe it across the hairline and anywhere I'm gonna be placing that line. Then I grab a blow dryer on cold, and I go brushing through the client's hair. I'm brushing everything straight to the line. I want everything to kind of sit where I need it to sit, so I'm not fighting with any part of my actual hairline. I want to be able to create my hairline without creating any kind of irritation to my client's actual scalp or side of his face, anything. All right, your client shouldn't be whelped up when you finish getting a haircut. Like, the alcohol shouldn't hurt like that. Pause. All right. So see me identifying where that actual crown sits. See how that crown came together? Beautiful. All right. So now we're gonna start with that nape line. Let me adjust my camera for a second. Oh, nah, all right. Oh, pardon me. All right, so I went back in and did a little more detail work to make sure that I bring everything, you know, around that line, any hair that's sticking up. Because sometimes, you know, 9 times out of 10, once you do the, what is that? The holding spray and then the cold air, you're gonna have pockets where the hair actually sticks up. All right, so now I'm gonna go right into that line, identifying where I want to place the line. A lot of people would have said I would have went back further. All right, but you gotta always look in correlation and kind of really identify where that hairline is supposed to be. All right, now if you look at placement, it's at the corner of his eyebrow. That's the bottom of that B point. All right, then when that actual curve or that C point comes into the line, if you look, it really starts to come into that line or that C point right at the almond of the eye. All right. Eventually, I'm gonna be able to freak these videos where I could do, you know, the little extra details, pause, you know. My shit is, you know. But we gonna get there. I'm probably gonna edit it out, probably won't. But shit, my shit is authentic. All right, after you do your line, you wanna make sure you go back through it, hit it again, all right? Those small details you're gonna actually do to that actual hairline is the reason why your client's gonna come back to you. I want you to understand, when your client leaves, he's not gonna comb his hair the right direction. He's not gonna know how to comb his actual hairline, unless there's somebody who's really meticulous about their hair, their haircut, they're really not going to comb and brush their hair to their actual natural pattern and really, comb their hair like how a barber does and understands hair patterns. All right. So you want to make sure that you make it easy for your client to be able to maintenance their haircut. So no matter which way they're actually combing their hair, or brushing their hair, that your line and everything that you did actually sees the light of day, man. When your client goes home and wash their hair, they want to make sure that they still have a haircut. They can see everything. All right. So now you see me bringing that C point. All right. So now looking at where that hair is the blonde at, all right at the top of where that corner of that eyebrow is, right? Into relation to where that actual C cup is going to be. All right. Pause. Getting that curve. Boom. Pause. Bringing that line together. Hit it. Comb it. All right. Now you can see the actual place where the actual top of his B point is. All right. After you bring everything else together. Every time you combing, you tapping, you're bringing that line to life. Small preps before you get ready to start the front of your hairline. Always start from the middle, choose a side. All right. Now I want you to pay attention to the relation where his actual hairline is and where I'm placing everything as far as my reference points, all right? Because you're dealing with that blonde hair. You see that line start to pop? There's all hair right there. You don't want to cut to where it's the darkest at, because if you cut to where the darkest at, I ain't gonna front for no lack of better words, you're going to hell. Your client's gonna be mad. It's not gonna be good work. Pardon me, I'm cleaning off my clippers for a second before I tap the corner, because I want to make sure. Then you see that corner just start to come to life. That corner of that eyebrow. That's why reference points are very important. Constantly combing so that you're bringing that actual hairline to life. Every time you comb, anything that overlaps or overshadows your actual line, that's what you're fighting with. All right. Same thing I did on one side, I'm going to do to the other. Turn your client's head. Pause.
It's one of the best scientific minds we have today.
I ain't gonna front, I just like that little intro into this track. Placement, understanding where your placement and your reference points is crucial. Now imagine how far his hairline would be back if I messed around and cut to where it's the darkest point at. It wouldn't even make no sense. So you just want to always make sure you use your reference points to create that hairline. Not every hairline is going to be set up for perfection. You got to create perfection from negative space and kind of, create your detail work to understand what you're creating and understand that as a barber, you're an artist. Show your artwork. Everybody can paint. Everybody can't create art, though. Finish off the date. Detail work matters, man. Gotta love this craft, man.